December 17th, 2020. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Darcy, roll call, please.
Marley,
Here.
Connell,
Here.
Fisher,
Here.
Guide,
Here.
Gilligan,
Here.
Kreiser,
Here.
Putt,
Here.
Okay, next item on the agenda is board minutes. So at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the board reorganization meeting of December 3rd and the regular board meeting of December 3rd, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Putt. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Fisher. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Palmyra Pride. Dr. Kepler.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. We have 3 individuals and/or groups tonight to celebrate for Palmyra Pride. Our first one dates back to probably last April, May, June, when we were discussing budget in our outdoor education program. And I'm happy to announce tonight, and we celebrate the support from Justin Brisson. Justin is the general manager of Bass Pro Shops, and Mr. Putt, one of our board members, partnered with Bass Pro, submitting a grant. And with Justin's support, we're proud to announce that our Palmyra Area Education Foundation is a recipient of a $2,000 Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's Outdoor Fund Grant to help support our outdoor education program. So, Mr. Putt, thank you for your efforts. And Mr. Brisson, on behalf of the board and administration, we appreciate and applaud your support of the Palmyra Area School Districts. Thank you very much.
Is Mr. Brisson on? Does he wish to make any kind of comments at all, Bernie?
Mr. Brisson, if you're in the meeting tonight and can raise your virtual hand and wish to say a few words, we're happy to do that. Our host will let you in. I don't see a hand going up.
Well, Mr. Putt, thank you for, I don't think all the folks are aware how much work you're putting in behind the scenes and all this. So thank you. And thanks to Justin that's pretty awesome.
Agreed.
Yep. I could not have done it without him. It was definitely a sizable amount of his effort, and requesting the funds through Bass Pro. So very excited, and hopefully, I mean, obviously it helps a little bit, and hopefully we get us over that mark that we need to meet. So.
Absolutely. Our second Palmyra Pride recognition tonight is our Palmyra field hockey team, District 3 champions and PIAA AA state champions for the fall of 2020. For anybody, and most of you on here know, if you know anything about Palmyra field hockey, you know a trip to Whitehall is in their goal and vision every fall. And for many years now, we've had the luxury of getting to drive to Whitehall and see our talented team play. And this year, that grace and patience and perseverance came to fruition, and our young ladies brought home the gold. I'd lie if I didn't tell you I was holding back tears in my eyes watching them celebrate on the field that Saturday morning or afternoon. Just sheer composure. I'm going to show you a video highlight here soon, but those of you close to the program know that Anna was struggling with an injury, held it in there all day long, put up and down the field, and had great patience in front of a diving goalie and pulled the ball back and put it over the goalie for an overtime win. So I'll first show our clip here of the team, and then we'll, this is the game winner. So that is it. That's a 2-1 overtime win for our third overall and second outright state championship. So to our coaching staff, our talented young ladies, on behalf of the board and administration, we applaud you and recognize you here tonight during Palmyra Pride. Congratulations.
Congratulations on a fantastic job. What a way to end a weird year for the school district and bring home that state championship. So congratulations to the field hockey team and all the coaches, parents, and everybody else who contribute as well. So fantastic job.
Big Dog, if you're on and want to say anything, or any team captains want to raise their virtual hand and we can unmute you.
Okay.
I think I see Ken at the top now.
Yeah, I would just say, Dr. Kepler, I like your word of perseverance. We felt like they did a great job. Our young ladies did a great job, not only going through a shortened regular season and a shortened postseason, but persevering in, as President Connell said, a weird year in a lot of ways. The virus was something that we had to change protocols with every day, but we kept our eye on the goals, and they came through in a huge way. And this is our 6th trip in the last 7 years to the state final, and we've also been blessed in that same period of time in what may be considered the most difficult district in the state for the sport of field hockey. We have been to the district championship game 8 out of the last 10 years. So to everyone that has played in our program, that's just a great tribute to an ongoing record and ongoing great achievement by a great group of young women. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach, and to your entire staff. The Skidge is a reality in our program. Our kids live it and they take it with them for life. So we appreciate the impact everybody's having on our young ladies in the program. Our final Palmyra Pride tonight ties into a motion that I believe is on a consent agenda with the acceptance of our audit. But I'm going to turn it over to Darcy tonight, and Darcy's going to share this Palmyra Pride.
Yep, we had another clean audit, and just a testament to the dedication of our business office staff. Tanya White, our Assistant Director of Business Affairs. We also have on the call Lori Brady, our Admin Assistant for Payroll and Personnel, and also Food Service. Tracy Snyder, Payroll Coordinator. Cherie Tobias, Accounts Payable, and Sharon Snyder, a Reception, but she wears a lot of other hats that provide assistance to the business office. I'll probably be repeating myself from things that I said at the last board meeting about our audit report. Just, you know, how grateful I am of how seriously this staff takes their job in enforcing all the regulations, following up on things, making sure things are accurate, that our controls are in place. About a month ago, I remembered this, and I'm going to share this. Tanya will love that I'm sharing this. About a month ago, it was National Accountants Day, and we took one of those silly quizzes to find out what our accounting personalities were. And I'm going to read what Tanya's was, because I think this is really represents the staff. And it's a private eye, a forensic superhero using otherworldly numerical, auditing, and detective skills to chase down every discrepancy and uncover the root cause of any irregular or dubious activity. not that we have a lot of dubious activity in the district, but I thought that really represented the attitude and the atmosphere within our district office, and making sure numbers are right and the controls that we have in place are followed. So thank you. And if John can bring up our staff that are out there.
While John's bringing that up, Darcy, I'm glad that we have the business office on Palmyra Pride. I think there's a lot of names you called out of a lot of people that usually, at least the board doesn't necessarily have to deal with. So it's great giving them recognition. But, you know, again, this year we had a clean audit, but we also had 10 prior clean audits as well. Right. And it may be even more than that, but that's at least what I can remember is 11 straight clean audits. Mm-hmm. And that is fantastic, both from a local and a federal perspective, and all the forensic details that you have to provide in each of those audit areas is just overwhelming, I guess you could say. So fantastic job to everybody in the business office. And it's again, I look at the business office as one of those key cogs in the wheel, right? That help maintain a healthy, in this case, a school district, but a corporation as well. You know, just keeping everything lean and just making sure we're following all the rules and everything else we need to do. So congratulations to everybody in the business office, and it is very much appreciated.
I see Tanya there with an ability. I don't know, Tanya, did you want to say anything?
I just wanted to say how appreciative I am of the girls in our office. They do such a wonderful job, and I'm grateful that you guys, you know, decided to do the Palmyra Pride for the business office. They do a fabulous job.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'll close that up, Tanya, and the team that's on tonight, and just hope you know how much appreciated you are through my lens. The superintendent, finances, and protocols, and the business side of things is probably one of the least things I have to concern myself with, as we have such a great team led by Darcy, and then you, Tanya, and everybody involved. So for me personally as well, I thank you. And that concludes Palmyra Pride, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kepler. So we'll move on to President's Report, and I really don't have anything to report other than to wish everybody who's in attendance, as well as our staff, administration, and support staff as well, happy holidays, and hopefully a very happy 2021, which can only be better than what we have in 2020. So. Next item on the agenda is visitor comments, and we do not have anybody registered. Is that correct, Dr. Kepler?
That is correct.
Okay. So we'll move on to board interviews, and just to anybody who hasn't attended the last couple board meetings, we did have 2 board members resign, Karen Ludwig and Michael Ludwig. So we need to replace those 2 board members, and we conducted interviews we conducted evaluations on December 3rd, and decided on 3 candidates to fill the 2 positions. They are Beverly Hudson, Michael Koval, and Gregory Krikorian. So what we will do this evening is open this up to all board members to ask 1 or more candidates any question they desire, in order to give them a better feel of the representation, views, or how they would fit as a board member onto the current board. And then after the interview question portion is done, we'll move on to the next items, which are the board appointments for that. For the board appointment, we will need a motion and a second, and then we will have a vote. And if the votes of the majority of the board for the candidate carry, then that person will fill that vacancy. So with that said, I would ask the board members to open this up for questions. John, if you would, can you unmute Bev, Mike, and Greg? And then please make sure you direct your question at an individual or ask all three. If you ask all three, what we'll do is we'll just go in order of Bev, Mike, or Greg. And this way we'll try to streamline it a little that way. So, okay, let's open it up for questions. I will start, I guess, with the questions then. And my question will be for all three. So my question is, what quality and experiences would you bring to the board that might distinguish you from the other applicants? Bev, can you start?
Sure, happy to. Thanks for the question. First of all, I'll begin with appreciate the opportunity to even be considered to return to the board. I have 2 years of prior board experience, a little more than 2 years, I believe, as a result of filling a vacancy previously held by Ellen Wargo. So I would certainly bring those 2 years of experience. I agree with the assessments that were made, I believe, on the last call that there is a learning curve here. I feel that I could come up to speed fairly quickly in terms of where we are from a budget perspective, as well as from a programmatic perspective. In addition to that experience, I work every day as a public servant. I've worked the last 12 years in state government. My current position is the Deputy Secretary for Administration for the Commonwealth's Department of General Services, where I struggle with some of the same things the district is struggling with today. I'm a part of the COVID response team, which involves procurement of PPE. It involves development of employee protocols, as well as protocols for all of the folks that government services. I'm actively also involved in the budgeting process, have complete purview of the department's $155 million budget, as well as HR and IT, about 850 employees, and a myriad of IT systems supporting what the department does, which is in essence serve as a service provider to all of the agencies of the Commonwealth. In addition to that, I'm a parent in the district. I have 2 children. Madeline is a junior and Mallory is an 8th grader. And lastly, I started my career in public service as a school teacher straight out of college, just down the road at Anvil, Clayona. So I would certainly seek to bring all of those experiences and perspectives if selected to fill a vacancy this evening.
Thank you, Bev. Michael?
Hi, I hope everyone is doing okay tonight, all shoveled out from the snow. And I too would like to begin by saying thank you for the opportunity. I had put in once or twice before, so I'm familiar with a lot of the faces I'm seeing now, and I hope you're familiar with me. My experiences are vast. I have about 25 years working for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as well. I have another 4 years as a school police officer at another local school district where I was involved in writing the safety plans, and we rewrote our entire all hazards plan from scratch in the time that I was there. And that was a real exciting accomplishment. It was very laborious and time consuming, but very rewarding at the same time, particularly since we wrapped it up about the time this pandemic started and we realized just how important it was to have all the pieces in place. I'm also a small business owner. So I have a vast experience managing people and payroll and benefits and everything that goes with owning and operating a small business on a day-to-day basis. And I'm a dad too. I have 2 kids in the district. I have Michael at the middle school and I have Jason at Lingual Elementary. And of course, being a dad brings a whole different perspective. And I've had the opportunity to meet most of the administrators, Mr. Rackley and I had worked closely together because my oldest boy wasn't always the easiest, but he wasn't the worst either. We had a lot of good conversations, and I really appreciate his help over the years guiding. And I guess that I would hope make me well-rounded. You know, I'm a good, solid member of the community. I have kids in the district, and I have vast experience working within the district or school districts, as well as sitting through and conducting myself on board meetings, and I've sat on boards for several nonprofits in the past. So I think I could jump right in and hit the ground running as well.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Greg.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, it's great to see everyone, even though it's from a distance. And I'm honored to have an opportunity to possibly be back on the board. Like Bev, I served in a capacity for about 2 years and very much enjoyed the experience. For me, being part of the board is really making a difference and probably the most important community asset that we have. If we can prepare our students, our children, to be successful, they're going to be happy, productive adults. I truly am proud to be a member of the Palmyra community. I've had 4 children who have graduated from Palmyra. I have a daughter who's a sophomore, currently in the high school. I have a daughter who is teaching in the middle school currently, and I have a grandson who will be joining. So I have a very much a vested interest in being part of this. My experiences really are in education for the past 31 years. I've worked in higher education during that time and overseen all aspects of the co-curricular or extracurricular experience. I've also had a major role in ensuring student success, so the retention side of the college experience. I believe we have one of the best districts in the world, certainly in Pennsylvania, and that's because of dedicated going forward and provide any leadership that I can. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of a variety of groups that are part of the Palmyra Area School District. I have supported the guidance counseling support group. I was very active this fall, early spring and all summer in the food distribution, where again, I was incredibly proud of the effort I saw by our guidance staff, our teachers, and community members who supported that effort. I'd like to continue in any way I can. I have expertise in budget. I've certainly had to manage hundreds of people over my career. And so I think I can make well thought out, good decisions for the district and provide positive leadership.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Board members, any questions for our candidates? Okay, so I will take that as no. So the last question that I'll leave the 3 of you is, do you have any questions for the board?
I do not.
Okay, so we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is our first appointment. This is a roll call vote, and Darcy, who would be up first? You're on mute.
It's me, Chris. I'm up first.
All right, okay. All right, so at this time, somebody would need to make a motion for the first appointment.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to nominate Bev Hudson for school board director.
okay, so I have a motion from Larry to appoint Bev Hudson for the first vacancy. Do I have a second? Jim,
Second.
I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. So Christine.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry.
Do I have a second by Christine? Darcy, give me 1 second here and you can take it away.
Okay. Hutt,
Yes.
Barley,
She can't get off mute. Can someone unmute her? Thank you.
Barley,
Nay.
Hold on, just,
Connell,
hold on just a second. Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Geib,
Yes.
Gilligan,
Nay.
Kreiser.
Yes.
You have
Okay, I
five.
think 5-4, 2 against, correct, Darcy?
Yes.
So with the vote, the majority approves or carries Bev Hudson to the first board appointment. So congratulations, Bev. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the second board appointment. So I would need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Greg Krikorian to fulfill the vacancy of the resignation of Mike Ludwig.
Okay, so I have a motion for Greg Krikorian to fill the vacancy due to the resignation of Michael Ludwig. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Geib. Okay, Darcy, give me one more second so I can get there. So I assume you're going to start with Krista this time?
Barley?
Yeah.
Connell?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Geib?
Yes.
Gilligan?
Nay.
Kreiser?
Yes.
Putt?
Yes.
Okay, Darcy, so I have 6 votes for, 1 against, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Majority of the board voted to appoint Greg Krikorian to the second board appointment. So congratulations, Greg. Mike, thank you for your time. I know you've applied a few times. I certainly think that this is going to be a rough year for us, but I appreciate your time and dedication to apply, so thank you. Okay, next item on, just real quick, Darcy or Bernie, when do we have the swear-in?
Sue will be in contact with Mrs. Hudson and Mr. Krikorian to schedule that. Will likely be after the new year, prior to those 2 individuals taking their seat at the first January school board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is presentation of preliminary budget.
First, I'm just going to take you through where we think we're ending the year. On a very unusual year, we'll start with our estimated fund balance. And when we, the budget that was adopted budgeted a use of $640,000 of fund balance, significantly higher than what we typically would budget, but with pressures on the revenues and lowering estimated tax revenues, we went a bit higher. We've been hit with 3 large items where we're projecting to be over budget. Before I hit those, though, I'll just mention the first line item on there, the budgetary reserve. That shows savings and a favorable variance there, but we typically put $200,000 in budgetary reserves so that we expect every administrator to budget not a worst case scenario. So that's something that we have to draw on when any line items go over budget. But there's an additional $300,000 freed up because we put money into budgetary reserve. We were aware we were getting stimulus funds, but we didn't have the details of how we'd be required to spend those. So that money is freed up. That additional $300,000 is freed up, but that's being used for some of these other line items. We hired additional staff. You'll see some of the line items that we project to go over budget due to the changes in our instructional model this year. Salaries, we're expecting at this point to be about $86,000 under budget, just by nature of some line items that we budgeted for, just by nature of how instruction is being delivered. For example, homebound, we have some money budgeted there. Well, we're not sending anyone into the home with this model this year. We had some lower costs with some athletic salaries, game personnel, some things like that. So that's just a looking through all our salary line items and estimating at least through this point in the year. Healthcare, last year was a really bad year. We went over budget last year, and typically what we hear from consultants is every 5 to 7 years you're going to have a bad year. We are not seeing that let up this year. We budgeted closer to trend, and we're still seeing very high claims, quite a few large dollar claimants coming through. So budgeting along the same, that will end with another year like last year. Special ed, we've had some move-ins, so we have some savings there. Some other line, CTC and transportation, expecting to go over budget there. The next two line items based on how we're delivering instruction this year with cyber charter schools. We have an additional over 50 students that left and moved to outside cyber charter schools. And that's at a cost of about $10,000 per regular ed student and $20,000 per special ed student. So an extra 50 moving to that. We budgeted based on the previous year and based on where our trend was. And then with our own, we had at least 200 students moved to our own asynchronous cyber charter program, Cougar Academy. And while we deliver that at a very cost-effective manner, still with 200 students, over 200 moving into that instruction, there are tuition costs that we pay for and teacher stipends. Then expecting some savings on utilities, just not as much use of our buildings after hours, and then just a catch-all of some other line items I reviewed where I believe we have some savings this year. So we're estimating an unfavorable variance in expenditures of about $717,000. Was able to add some, I have done several revenue presentations at prior board meetings, so I'm not going to take you through that, but certainly are seeing a little bit of a pickup in revenue compared to budget. So that's been a bright spot. I did add some dollars to real estate transfer tax, collections on real estate and earned income tax, but then there's a lot of other small line items where we're getting hit with lower revenues such as rentals, admissions for sporting events, a lot of smaller line items. So bottom line, where I'm estimating will come in this year is that we'll see a decrease in fund balance of a little over $1 million, and we had budgeted to see a decrease of $640,000. Planning to use $200,000 of our reserve for self-insured medical claims. So that's what it's there for the bad years. So that would take 1.1 million down to 900,000. Our consultants tell us to keep like 3 to 4 months of claims in there. So that still leaves a healthy reserve. That we'd end the year with a little under 2.6 million in fund balance and still be within our board policy to stay within 4 to 8% of expenditures.
Hey, Darcy, just for reference, can you go back up to Cyber Charter and Cougar Academy?
Yes.
My first question is, $500,000 is over $500,000 is pretty significant, right? Do we see that going up even further in the next half of the year, or do you think it will stay relatively flat?
I think it's stable now. Usually by November 1st, the numbers are reliable. Based on trend, those numbers are reliable to project through the end of the year.
Okay.
We're not seeing,
And then Cougar Academy, we have 200 students in. How many students do we have in cyber?
About 160 in the outside cyber. And that was an increase of 200 students to the Cougar Academy.
Oh, okay. So how many?
The total number, and I'll defer, maybe Annette wants to jump in, or KK are there to talk about that. I mean, that model, we have so many. To give you a number, it might be misleading because we have a lot of part-time students as well as full-time students.
Okay.
If you could have somebody just students taking just one class, PE or a language we don't offer.
Yeah, I don't need it now, Darcy. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I would like to know the number of the delta for 2021 of the increased enrollment of full-time students in Cougar Academy.
Yeah, and that at the start of the year, that was 200 additional full-time students.
200 additional full-time.
Right.
Yeah, so I would be glad to share the 2029 Cougar Academy numbers with you, and it gives you the difference of 2018, 2019, and 2020. So if you give me a minute, Dr. Kepler, I can upload it, and then you can share this with the board. But last year, there was 126 total Cougar Academy students, and this year there's 371. So it's more than tripled this year due to COVID. And I would be glad to, I have a spreadsheet KK did a really nice job of. I would be glad to show this to you.
So same question too. Do we see that growing or do we see that stable?
I'm actually, whenever we find out what happens with COVID, I think we'll see a lot of those students return to face-to-face learning. The question is how quickly can the vaccine and people feel solid enough about the vaccine to allow their child back in person?
Yeah, I'm more thinking, for the next half of the year, do we see that number increasing?
The only way it would increase, we've kind of put a hold on Cougar Academy for our elementary and middle school students. Our high school students, it's a whole new grouping of students. So I think it's pretty much a wash, but there will be new courses that are Cougar Academy courses for the spring.
Okay.
So, but there are a lot of those, Mr. Connell, are the 1 course, 2 course here or there, and it's for the students that are staying home.
Right. Okay.
So would you say there's more full-time students this year in Cougar Academy than there are part-time students in Cougar Academy, or is it?
No, absolutely. And you'll see that in a minute, Mr. Putt, as soon as I upload it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk.
So you're saying,
Bernie, where do you want me to upload this at so you can, or do you want me to just email it to you?
Should be able to make you a
presenter.
You should be able to screen share and just put it up.
Okay, let me.
So I guess, so we have we have over 10% of our entire student body. That includes middle school, high school, and elementary school in some form of cyber school.
That's correct. And it's, from a financial perspective, it's not been good, but it's one of the things that has helped us with
223 full-time.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep.
Is that good?
So 223 in full-time Cougar Academy and another 160 in outside.
Correct.
383 students.
And the others
in
just
some form of cyber charter.
And if you're doing percentages of enrollment, Mr. Putt, those in the outside cyber are not counted in our total enrollment. So it's not a huge sway in a percentage, but just to make sure you're aware of that. So that approximately 3,700 students, 223 are in our Cougar Academy.
And luckily, Mr. Putt, our students in Cougar Academy has increased way faster than our outside. I believe last year we had close to 100 students in outside cybers. Darcy, correct me if I'm wrong. And this year we're at like 152. So we've had 50 new students for outside cyber. And a lot of students with Cougar Academy, we try really hard to keep them in our Cougar Academy because it's about an elementary student's about $3,000 per student if they do a Cougar Academy through the district. If it's a student outside, it's 10 to 20,000, depending if there's any IEP or special needs. So this has really negatively affected our budget this year with COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So we started the fiscal year with fund balance percent of close to 6%, correct, Darcy?
Yes.
So we're roughly about we're roughly dropped 1.37 basis points on the fund balance itself, and we're just about halfway through the year, just about, not completely, just about. Okay.
Dr. Kepler, if you want to take over the screen.
Can you stop share?
Oh, yep. Sorry, I couldn't find it.
Certainly not a trend that's sustainable.
No.
No.
And we don't believe, for what it's worth, once our normal happens, if we ever know what the new term of normal will be, we do believe that a good many of our Cougar Academy students will go back into the classroom. We are hoping, and Dr. Kepler, I hope you're okay. We have a survey ready to go out to our families to ask them what they're thinking for next year. We wanted it to go out the beginning of December. But then when the scare of COVID rising and cases rising and things closing, we didn't feel like sending that out now would give us a true picture of where the families are going to be next fall. So we are choosing to wait a month or two, see what happens with the vaccine before we send that information out to families.
Makes sense.
And we're also, Annette and KK are working on plans with principals on further developing our own curriculum. Is the courses that we don't offer ourselves, we purchase at $425 a course per student. Looking at focusing on 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade at the elementary, where we'll be writing curriculum where we can offer more of our own courses and have if we do just a few courses alone, we're estimating a $40,000 savings, upwards of the potential of over $100,000 in savings, simply if the same number of kids stay in Cougar Academy next year. But also the real money's in bringing those kids back.
And Darcy, I don't want to challenge your numbers because, my guess is the way you're on top of things, we probably made an adjustment to the final budget last year, but are we not also likely to be down $30,000, $40,000 of gate receipts and rentals?
That's built into revenue. Yes.
So you're just deducting it from the revenue estimate
Yes.
side. Okay.
Yeah, and just one more thing to point out about fund balance. If fund balance is around 4%, 1 month of operating expenses is about 8%. So what we'll end the year in fund balance is not even 1 month of operating expense.
Good point.
And to that point, Darcy, we talk about that number a lot, and it's a lot of money, but as a percentage, and to your point of operating budget, it's razor thin in terms of a contingency for us. I think I had done some research, but I think you all have some data. Perhaps at the next meeting, or the next finance committee, could you share with us, I know some of our neighboring districts, we often talk about, where they're at from a tax perspective, and they're so much better. But I also think some of them have double-digit percentage fund balances relative to their expenditures. I know, one neighboring district in particular has, I think when I had some meetings, it was like $12 million So perhaps just for our board members, if we can get some comparison, just to put that number into context, because again, $2.5 million is a lot of money. But I think when you see it in context of what other districts are sitting at in terms of their balance, I think it would help provide some context to us of where we want to be that number.
I can do that.
And I would just add, just because anytime we can talk about outside cybers and the funding mechanism for those, I think it puts a context to financial situations and aid we could get through some legislative change. The 2018-19 annual financial reports for all public schools, which includes charter schools and cybers, are posted on PDE's website. And to give you just an idea of two of the larger charter cybers in Pennsylvania, in 18-19, the one ended the year with revenues exceeding expenditures by $45 million. A second, revenues exceeded expenditures by near $6.7 million. So you have cybers who get the full tuition rate of what public school brick and mortar schools have to pay, where they don't have brick and mortar and some other costs for facilities. So just put that into perspective. When we're talking about a $500,000 shortfall for us, local taxpayer dollars going all across the Commonwealth to outside cybers, and we're struggling financially. So I don't know how we get that changed, but something needs to be done in that area for sure.
Super frustrating, that's for sure.
Ready to move on to the preliminary budget by object. That salary analysis, the board, we've taken the board through that before. We've built salaries, projected salaries for 21-22 with no new positions added, just budgeting based on the positions that we've got this year. And then we did the one place we did restore was department chairs. So that we're looking at an estimated 3.5%. And some of the reason that's showing higher increase than a normal 3% increase, because as I've said, we didn't add any new positions compared to budget last year. If you remember me saying we put some money in budgetary reserve last year because we weren't sure how we were going to spend it. And then we actually needed to put more money into salaries into the Cougar Academy program to be delivering the type of instruction we're delivering this year. So that if you're that 3.5% increase on prior year salaries is not an apples to apples comparison, because in this current year, we did need to add some positions to support the Cougar Academy, and we used stimulus money to do that. Then the benefits that are shown there, Social Security and retirement, that's just billed off of the salaries, and there is a rate increase. This should, for anyone who's not been following school finances over the years, we are at this current year, for every dollar that we spend in salaries, our contribution to the pension plan is 34.51%. Now, on the subsidy side, we do get 50% of that back in revenue, but that's important for people to know. And then it's increasing next year, actuarially certified, to 34.94%. So not only, is there's that increase is built in, but then also it's increasing because of salaries going up. And then in for the medical insurance line item, I know I showed you that estimating that we'll be over budget by $500,000 this year. I'm adding $250,000 there. We've have put in place, one of our motions later on in this board meeting is a Price MD program. That's a voluntary program for members that may be eligible for savings on specialty drugs. We had enrollment of another voluntary program, a more narrow network that was put into place January 1 with a Choice Blue network. We had 70 out of 240 members enroll in that Choice Blue. So we have some things coming on board that we hope will help control costs. And there are also some contractual pieces that are hitting this year that were negotiated in the last contract that are saving money with a lower employer contribution to the HSA and higher spousal premium share. So not passing through that full 500,000 that we're seeing this year. Then putting in place the Cougar Academy, Annette is working and KK are working on some plans. Now this would be based on if the same enrollment stays in place in 21-22 in our Cougar Academy, but some changes are being proposed to save some of those tuition contracts, but that would be the same enrollment. Then under purchase property services, I'll just say that all of the line items, other than these 7 changes that I'm going to point out, 6 changes that I'm going to point out, all of these other line items are budgeted at flat, which is risky because of contractual or increases that we may experience that are inflationary. But tech leases that based on supporting our tech plan and the model of instruction we're under right now, an additional round of tech leases in an increase of 75,000. But that's more than made up on the revenue side because we're expecting, I think it was about $160,000 in revenue next year for sales of equipment that's coming off of expired leases that'll expire. So that does net out to be a wash. And then in the other purchase services, putting in an increase for cyber charter, again, that's as if just to match where we're at this year. We would certainly hope that we could bring students back and increases in transportation contracts. Then the supplies, property, and other objects, budgeting flat there. And then in the 900s debt service, this is the last year of with the debt service that we put in place for the middle school renovations, Forge, Northside, the last year of phasing in an increase there of 237.5. But removed some of those funds that were put in place to offset stimulus. So that does show that that's going down. But we've moved some of that stimulus funded money into the places where we're actually spending it. So total projected very early in the year. I mean, it's December and this is a budget that does not have to be adopted until June, but projecting a 4.65% increase. But that's with, other than what's been noted here, everything's in there at flat and no new positions.
Darcy, after this year, the long-term debt service projections flatten also?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Actually goes down a little bit next year. I think it goes.
What I thought, but I mean, yeah. I think it goes down, but then, I mean, the trend for like the next 10 years is pretty flat, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, now we'll take you to putting it together. This is showing the maximum mills that we would qualify for based on what we showed you at previous revenue presentations with a 5.2% tax increase. That would be comprised of the index of 3.8%, and then we qualify for additional millage increase based on special ed costs, the rate of increase of our special ed costs that adds another $468,000 to real estate. not where we like to be building the budget, but you'll see where we are even with this maximum millage increase compared to expenditures. I did add that collections would pick up and only be, instead of being down 2%, it would be down 1%. And if you look at EIT, picked up an additional, where we budgeted this year, 3.1 million, picked up to 3,425,000 for next year. And picked up some funding in real estate transfer. Those are the main adjustments in the local section. Oh, and you can also see on there the line item for sale of fixed assets. Bernie, that's 6930. Yeah, there's 164,000 budgeted there in revenue from sale of fixed assets. So a nice pickup there, just based on how those leases are being managed. If you get down to the state sources of revenue, budgeting flat, we are being told that's just what we need to expect. No increases for a second year in state subsidy. We are budgeting that we will get some stimulus money. I'm optimistic with what's taking place in Washington that some federal stimulus will come through and be passed down to school districts. The retirement subsidy goes up because of, we saw on the expenditure side, the increase there. So of course the 50% of that we receive in subsidy, that goes up as well. And projecting total revenues of 56.8 million compared to the expenditures of 57.7. That still shows a use of fund balance of about 850,000. So we certainly haven't done anything to make up the gap that we're at this year. It's going up to 850,000. Timeline, what's important for you to know about timeline, again, it's early in the year. Our budgetary timeline shows that we'd be required to post a preliminary budget by January 21st. So we would be looking for that direction from you by the 14th. If this is a preliminary budget, you would give us direction to post. Then you don't have to adopt a preliminary budget until February 11th. And that would be, this would be if you'd be at this point approving that we file, we apply for the exception, the maximum exceptions at this time to give us time until May, June to have more information about subsidies, have more information about surveys about our students in Cougar Academy and cyber programs, and make some better projections about bringing kids back. But we wanted to get a preliminary budget in front of you before the January 14th meeting so that you do have time to consider that, knowing we have to post a preliminary budget by January 21st.
Okay. Any questions on the preliminary budget or anything else we went over? If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is buildings and grounds. And
Mr. President, it looks like Mr. Kreiser stepped out for just a second here. Do you want me to go ahead and?
If you would, please.
Sure. Yeah. So the last meeting for buildings and grounds was held on December 3rd. There were nothing to discuss. The meeting adjourned at 7:10. And there was no public comment. The next meeting of the Buildings and Grounds will be held on January 14th, 2011. after the regular board meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Putt. We'll move on to finance. Ms. Fisher. You're on mute too, Christine.
And I'm pulling it up. In Finance Committee. Don't see the, here we go. Great. So the Finance Committee, thank you, met on December 3rd. And Darcy Brenner Smith reviewed the school district's 1920 audit with the board. There was no public comment, and the meeting adjourned at 7:16. And out of that meeting, we do have a motion. So I would like to make a motion to approve the Finance Committee items as noted on the finance agenda.
So I have a motion to approve the Finance Committee items as noted on the finance consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Putt. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Just note that we also added the transportation contract with Boyo, and we reached agreement on an addendum with Boyo that the first, in the event of school closure, the first 5 days would be at 0, 6 to 15 days would be at 80%, and 16 to 60 days would be at 40%. And then after that, we would negotiate. And then also there is, with Act 136, there have been changes that are being stipulated about to pay transportation contractors. So if that would be greater than what the agreement we reached, they would be paid that, because that would get us our subsidy in full.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And the next meeting of the Finance Committee is scheduled for Thursday, January 14th, after Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting in the district office boardroom, or virtually if necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. So we'll move on to staffing and administration. Mr. Geib.
Okay, staffing and administration met on December 3rd. There was a review of the early dismissal dates for the rest of the school year. There was no public comment. And out of that meeting, we have a motion to approve the staffing and administration committee items as noted on the staffing and administration consent agenda. Dr. Kepler, would you like to make some comments?
You're on mute, Bernie.
Hey, that's you. You're on mute. Now he turned his computer off. I'll show you.
So there you are, staffing and administration consent agenda. Just a shout out to Josh Short, a fantastic employee. He's one of the folks you've seen in Palmyra Pride over the last 2 years as one of our 2 elementary STEM teachers, helped us build that program. And he has an awesome opportunity outside of public education and is leaving employment with us. He's painstakingly leaving. Josh loves his job with us, loves Palmyra Area School District, but we wish him well and support his transition. Employing a long-term substitute for a continuation of a leave. Resignations of a special ed aide, sports staff transfer for an opportunity there. The early dismissal dates that Mr. Geib just reviewed in committee are before you in consent agenda tonight. An additional volunteer coach for boys lacrosse, a volunteer, and Kyle Kondracki. And as Darcy's mentioned to you, the Price MD cost containment proposal that is before us tonight with approving the attached MOU with the association, as well as the services agreement with Price MD and Palmyra Area School District.
And IU 13 approved this at their meeting last week. So, and we're the first school district then in the IU then to add this plan.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the Staffing and Administration Committee items as noted on the Staffing and Administration consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Putt. Any further questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next meeting of Staffing Administration will be February 17th.
Thank you, Mr. Geib. We'll move on to the next item, which is reports, and we'll start out with the superintendent's report. Dr. Kepler.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. It seems as if these reports are so brief, and I think it's just a testament to what is a typical year and the amount of student activity and what's not occurring. But this month I have for you, John Hanasak is our December Palmyra Area High School Rotary Student of the Month. We applaud John, student athlete, good student, involved student that'll represent Palmyra Area High School as our Rotary student this month. And then also some students at the Lebanon County Career and Technology Center. The CTC selects students each year to represent their program as ambassadors. And for CTC Pride, they call it, giving tours of the school, speaking to future prospective students, conducting charity work throughout the community. And this year, Palmyra Area High School has 2 students at the CTC who are ambassadors. And that is Tithia Lee in cosmetology and Tia Eberly in the health careers technology field. So we congratulate those 2 students. To highlight middle school guidance team, Mrs. Dorwart, Mrs. Garrison, and Mrs. Wader, along with Mrs. Burrows, put together a counseling newsletter monthly. And the December edition stood out to me, so I have the link there for you. Just an impressive newsletter and work that they put into that. We hit it in Palmyra Pride tonight, so I won't go over that one in great detail, but our Bass Pro Shop grant with the help of Mr. Putt. A highlight of our holiday gift pickup, it was postponed until this Saturday. Over 200 students sign up for gifts, and our social workers, counselors, staff partner with members of our community to provide for students. So every student on Saturday that is part of the gift give will have a need gift, a want gift, and an additional $25 gift card. I believe over 400 gifts will be distributed on Saturday. So again, Palmyra staff and community coming together to take care of our own in our community. And I wanted to show you, and I'll show you some pictures with this one, but is we've had buildings that are going into a full remote learning model due to COVID cases. We're doing our deep cleaning, thorough cleaning, and when we're done with that, contact tracing still taking place, allowing case numbers to subside a little bit. We're using then our custodial staff to get to projects we normally don't get to. And I'm going to highlight the painting of the stairway rails at the high school, but also at North Side, due to save costs during renovations, we cut the painting of doors out of that project. Our staff's been doing that during our full remote week at North Side, installing cork stripping down the hallways, another area that was cut from the project that we're able to do on our own. So just to highlight, I have some of these pictures on my desktop already downloaded for you. If I can click and drag here, maybe. Okay, so that's a high school railway or stair rail prior to renovation. And as soon as I can drag this over. I don't know what a finished product. So, and this was our custodial staff pulling a few custodians while others are still doing additional cleaning. Some things that we just normally can't get to. I wanted to share one example of how we're using our personnel. So kudos to Heath and Kim and staff. And while I'm saying that, just to give you a perspective of, last night's snowfall, we had a tough night in maintenance. We had 4 vehicles and or the plows associated with them break down. They were at 2 a.m. Our team was still in the garage repairing equipment. And my understanding is they reported to work at 6:30 a.m. Wednesday. And as of 9:30 this morning, they were just getting ready to go home with fixing equipment and continuing to clear our lots so that we're back in operation tomorrow. So we're going to have a tired maintenance crew tomorrow. So thank you to that group for their efforts. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kepler. We'll move on to the student rep report. Do we have a rep report this evening?
I think I saw Gracie on here earlier.
Gracie was online, but she may have been on for field hockey. She's still here.
She's here.
John, that'd be Grace.
Hello.
Yep. There she is.
Hi, Gracie.
Hi, Gracie.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Student Council currently has been working on getting more student involvement, so more theme days for the holiday season. We started making holiday raffle baskets, but we have moved that back to Valentine's Day, where teachers and staff and students can put in stuff for a raffle basket. Most exciting news is that Student Council has actually made an Instagram where we'll be posting updates, what's going on with the staff and students. And I think this is the best idea right now for keeping everyone updated, since it's so hard for everyone to have one place. So if that's interesting, the handle for that is all lowercase PHS_student.council. We have already a couple posts up and stories of students wearing their theme days and classmates and everything exciting. Besides that, we are still working on more fundraisers, and I think that is everything.
Okay, thank you, Gracie.
My pleasure.
CTC.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. Palmyra Rec.
So due to the snow event, our meeting last night was canceled.
Okay.
They aren't doing those remote.
All right. IU13.
Yes, the IU13 board, we met on December 9th. And the highlight of the meeting was that Trout Ebersol Groff and Groff LLC, they provided an audit report. And the results included an unmodified opinion, noting that the IU13 is in sound financial condition and that it has a strong system of internal controls. So that was very positive and the highlight of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Cougar Foundation.
Another one, there's been no meeting since our last board update.
Okay. Library.
No meeting in December.
Tax collection. Okay. Legislative region report.
Okay, there's been a lot. The General Assembly with the COVID-19 liability protection for schools was passed by the Senate, but it was vetoed by the governor, of course, that was. And all the other bills are, there's some other bills that were passed. There was Act 114, tax exemption notes. It declares 37.6 million of the 63.1 million 2021 increases in basic education funding is to pay for the prior year's shortfalls and is understanding that the remaining 2021 increase in basic education funding is to be covered, except at growth in schools, employee social security costs, which they went over. Also, another law that passed was Act 122 is the visual screening that requires first-time school students to have the vision screening in 12 months prior to their first day of school. It also modifies that current school vision screening schedules. School districts must perform student vision screenings every year through 5th grade and at least every other year through 12th grade. If a child fails a required screening, the parent or guardian must be notified. Act 132 was passed, Broadband Accessibility Fund Program, in part by repealing the $5 million mobile telecommunication broadband investment tax credit. The grant program provides funding to improve access to high-speed broadband internet in rural areas. Act 136 of the school codes. Some of these that were passed were the testing for the Keystone exams for the 1920 school year and any subsequent year in which the federal government has waived testing requirements. Any student who completed a course in an academic content area associated with the Keystone exam is not required to take the Keystone exam related to that course. The student will be deemed proficient based on successful completion of local established grade-based requirements. Graduation requirements delays the implementation of statewide graduation requirements under Act 158 until 2022-23 school year. It also allows school districts to use a Keystone exam as a graduate requirement for 22-23 year. Therefore, districts may set their own graduation requirements. Another one that passed was the pupil transportation subsidies and the non-public pupil transportation subsidies. And that's about it.
Quite a
Sorry,
bit.
I couldn't talk.
Quite a bit. Thank you.
Yeah, so Chris, Sue, and I guess for the admin or any other board members, with the governor vetoing that, are we now not indemnified from a COVID perspective? Is there anything we need to be looking at from a risk or insurance perspective?
I believe it has added a layer of risk because we received a letter from our carrier that COVID claims would not be covered. What that means, I don't, what type of claims could be raised. Could be pretty broad.
Yeah, I'm pretty much at a loss as to why you'd veto that. And
Yeah, it doesn't just cover us. It's small business owners, manufacturers, school districts, colleges, business owners. I mean, it's a lot of other ones that this is included in. So why it did not say why he vetoed it, just that he was against it in the beginning.
yeah, so Chris, I don't know. I'm sure you and Bernie and Darcy will be talking, but I mean, I don't know if there's, hopefully, to everybody's point, the vaccines come out and hopefully things start getting, markedly better. But I'm not sure if there's a temporary rider we need to get or anything that's even available to us, or if the solicitor has any feedback on, what Bob's seeing out there, because I'm just kind of, again, I'm pretty much at a loss as to why that would. It just makes no sense to put 500 districts across the state at risk during a time when where's the money coming from if something does happen?
Right.
Yeah. I think in general terms, we have tort immunity, but as long as we're doing our job and due diligence, and that falls into play, but we're clearly in uncharted waters when it comes to a pandemic. So a lot of unknowns there, absolutely.
Okay, anything else? Okay, any other reports? Okay, we'll move on to communications. Any communications?
No communications.
No communications. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Oh, gee.
Hold on.
Holy smokes. Let's go.
Moved by
Write down any names. I'll approve it in the
Come on,
minutes
Colin.
next week.
Who
Yep.
seconded that? Was that Jim?
Jim did.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries and we're adjourned. Okay, so we'll move into our committee meetings, and the first up is curriculum.
Thank you. Our first is the lab fees for the second semester. Annette.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Putt. I just wanted to bring this for you as we're assuming at this point our students in high school and middle school are still doing AB days. So I would like to recommend that we continue with the reduction of lab fees at a 50% cost, which would be $10 for the course for the second semester. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Winter Keystone exam plan with the Act 136 being approved. Susan did go into a little bit with the Keystone exam. A couple additions I just want to point out is our juniors and seniors do not need the Keystone exams to pass to graduate. That has been waived, but our current sophomores, they will need the Keystone exams to graduate. So what is happening with some of our students is they're being waived, or they were waived last year. So if they don't take them because they took their class last year, it's going to be proficient. The only downfall that will be is if you have a student who does not pass any of the upcoming Keystones, you can add the 3 numbers together from the 3 tests, and then they could pass on that number if the number is high enough. If a child doesn't take a Keystone exam because they were in a trigger course last year when we didn't have Keystones, there's not a numeric number attached to that test. So then that is just purely, that wouldn't be in part of the algorithm. So this is only really going to affect the kids that are basic or below basic on a Keystone exam and needs, say they're really high in algebra, but they bombed the biology exam. If they were really high in algebra, those kids, it might benefit them to take it because they could use some of that score in algebra to bump their biology score to a proficient. And I don't have the number in front of me, what the combined number is. I think it's like 1446 they have to have. So that's something we're working out with the high school to see if there's any kids that we need to look at that way in order to have them test. Students that are proficient or advanced, there's absolutely no need for those students to take a Keystone exam if they took the trigger course last year when the exam wasn't offered. The other with the Keystone exam this year is I received information that said that there is a waiver about the accountability part of the Keystone exam, but there is not a waiver yet for the taking of the Keystone exams this year. So the question was asked, what if you have students that are fully synchronous and the parents don't bring them in to take the Keystone exam. And the answer from PDE was that will count against you on your attendance rate. So that's not good. With that said, we're going to keep the plan that we had prior to Act 36 being approved, and we're going to have our winter exams on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, and that will give us the opportunity to spread the kids out. And our fully synchronous kids, we will have the ability to have, say, 4 students in one classroom and really spread them out to ensure to those families that their child won't be, you know, anywhere near other kids, in hopes that those families are in agreement to allow those kids into the building. If they are a synchronous child and they're in 9th or 10th grade taking one of these Keystone exams, if they choose not to take it now, they will have to take it before they graduate. So it behooves them to suck it up, Buttercup, and come in the building to take it, because taking a biology exam a year and a half or a year after you took the course is, you know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So the state isn't giving us a lot of leeway with students taking these exams, or not taking them for that matter. So that is what we're still planning to do. The number of students in the buildings those 3 days is much lower because we're not testing the kids that took those courses last year. But we're still gonna, because of COVID, we're still gonna spread them out so that they're spread out throughout the whole building. Other students will be asynchronous learning at home those 3 days. Any questions? I'm sure I'll bring back more information about Act 136, because every time I go to a meeting, somebody gives another scenario and we're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I'll continue to update you, as I'm sure Susan will as well, as that just comes to light. Letter C.
Hey, Dr. Spagnuolo, before you move on to C, just again, as a reminder, if you have any questions regarding our agenda for curriculum and instruction, please raise your hand prior to us finishing, in this case, item C, so that we move into public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. And then letter C, Edmentum 3-year contract. We are up for our Edmentum contract, which is our study island, reading eggs. It's several of our technology licenses that we use. I've worked with the rep from Edmentum, and he was able to give us the same price that we've had the last 3 years. And we actually added and changed some of what we offered, what they offered for us. So in my opinion, this was a really good deal. If you approve as the board, we would have 3 years of paying $33,000 a year for the study island licenses, reading eggs, exact path, depending on the buildings. If I pay a deposit of $500 before the new year, these amounts are locked in. So that is why I'm bringing that to you now and not later on in the spring, because I would like to lock the previous year's numbers in before the new year starts.
How does 33,000 compared to what the licensing costs were this year?
It's actually, I believe, $10 cheaper. So he was able to really, I needled him a little bit, but he was able to understand the situation. And honestly, I took this to the curriculum committee. We use Study Island and Reading Eggs and Exact Path so heavily that for us to say, oh, we can't have this moving forward, not knowing what we're doing technology wise, it would be a negative impact on our students.
And I know, Dr. Spagnuolo, that this is a heavily used item. I think it's great that we're staying flat year over year. And if I heard you correctly, I think you said we got a little bit more services added to it.
Mhm.
So, I think it's, I'd rather see a reduction. But the fact that it's relatively flat year over year is a positive as well.
I was happy that he was offering a 3-year contract, quite honestly, because we don't know. I mean, well, we do pretty much know that next year is pretty grim budget wise, but 3 years for a company to say we're willing to lock you in, I was pretty happy with that opportunity.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that's
Thank
all
you,
I
Dr.
have.
Spagnuolo.
You're welcome.
Mr. Connell, I'll turn it over for you to public comment.
Yep. So public comment, we only have one person, and that's Mr. Laudermilch. Dave, can you say hi?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can. Just give me a second because I have to start my clock here. Okay. You have the floor, Dave.
Oh, great. Thank you. So around the curriculum, I just wanted to check in on two things. One, that the outdoor education is a go for the spring, that we've met that budget requirement, and the outside funds will cover the line item that was baked into the budget last year. I thought December was the go, no-go date on that. And then two, concerning outdoor education, is that in the budget at this point, as what Darcy provided at the 10,000 foot view, is outdoor education in the budget for this year and being added back into the yearly operational expenses of the district, or is that not?
I'm happy to answer both of those, Mr. Loudermilch. I'll answer the latter one first, actually, because it's probably the easiest one, and say that yes, the early 30,000 foot budget the board just saw tonight does include outdoor education.
Oh, great.
The two items that it had restored as a starting point was outdoor ed and the department chair grade level coordinator positions. All other cuts were maintained in the 21-22 preliminary budget. The second part of your question is, right now, I don't believe we're at the target number. Our team internal working on outdoor ed did a presentation last month, I believe, on new funding and given the program and how we're going to take 2 grade levels, et cetera. And it was a little higher than anticipated. There's been communication with the committee that's doing fundraising. We did just get, prior to just days leading up to this meeting and not able to get it on the agenda, proud to highlight we did hear from Fulton Bank in the EITC program, and we'll be receiving $9,000. I received an email today to file the paperwork to finalize that.
Okay.
We were anticipating that, so that's part of what we've been estimating. So we're close. I believe that group is poised to hit the target for the coming year.
Okay. Okay. So outdoor education for the spring, you think is a go?
Financially, yes.
Okay.
COVID.
Well, financially, yes. Financially, yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Financially, I believe that we're going to be able to hit that target number. It's just a matter of where are we with the pandemic at that time and comfort level of parents, students, and staff to go to Camp Soterra.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Laudermilch.
Thank you.
Hey, Bernie, just out of curiosity, how much are we short on outdoor ed?
I'm hard pressed. I believe it's under 10,000, closer to 7,500 maybe. But I would want to do some homework and get you an accurate answer.
Yeah, I just wanted a ballpark number. Then that's okay. It's 10,000 in the 10,000 ballpark area. That's good enough.
I believe so.
Yeah, if you were going to say 50,000 or something like that, then okay. But I'm good. You don't have to tell me anymore.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we have no more people that raise their virtual hands, so we'll move on to staffing and administration.
Okay, the only thing we have here is an update for the health and safety plan, Dr. Kepler.
But again, I have to start getting the committee members to say this. Just remember, raise your hand, please, before we get to public comment if you have anything related to the staffing and administration committee agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Connell. I have an update to the plan for you. It is highlight in red font, and I would say they're basically just direct from the new orders that have been in place from the Commonwealth. So we've updated the mask guideline, as is now stated, through the Department of Health. Some changes that we've seen are moving away from face shields as a mainstay, or some of the language out of convenience, that if a student or staff member due to medical reason or disability needs a face covering, then that is taken through a process and they're able to continue wearing those. Otherwise, must use a mask at this point in time. So this is literally just removing old language from the order and placing in the new language, again, from the Department of Health. And then the following pieces were the quarantine piece that changed from the CDC and then adopted by the Department of Health. It reduced some of the quarantine periods. I guess I'll stop there. There's one about bus drivers and face coverings. Since there's a transportation section, we included a statement there.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarantine piece, I apologize, is here you go. That's staff and students with fever or symptoms that may be associated with COVID-19 and no known direct exposure may return to school after 10 days, previously 14. Just cleaned up language here. Negative test result, having been fever-free for 24 hours and improved respiratory symptoms. Should remain, we just changed it to will. Some cleanup language in their new guidance about students and staff who've had direct exposure to a person and then develop symptoms are considered probable cases. And again, I'll highlight that under the new order, probable cases count towards the numbers needed to close a building or move to full virtual learning. So it's not only positives, but probables at this point. And then new additional change, a student or staff member who's quarantined following close contact with a case may return when one of the Department of Health approved release from quarantine criteria has been met. Tried to leave that general versus changing it. When we did this plan initially, I loved the idea of being specific. And as you know, that bites you when you're specific because you have to do edits all the time. If we would have just said most up-to-date guidance from the Commonwealth and Department of Health, it would have been easier, but I think less detailed for our staff and families to follow along with us. So we've tried to put it all in one location. So basically these changes just keep us in line with the new mask orders from November 23rd and the new quarantine direction from the Department of Health as well. So that concludes the changes. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have or call on Kathy and Noel to help me.
I don't think anybody has any questions. It's a lot of the stuff we've been talking about anyway. And
yes.
Okay. We'll move on to public comment, and I do not have anybody who has raised their hand. So therefore, board members, can I suggest a 5-minute break that we meet at 7:52? And we'll go into our closed session. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. So
Yep.
just to all the participants on the board and committee meeting, again, happy holidays and happy New Year.